Stop, right there. Before you move another step, I need you to hear this as if it were spoken directly into the center of your chest. Something has shifted around you, and you already felt it before you had words for it. You have been carrying a silence that no one else seems to notice. You smile when you are supposed to smile, you answer when you are asked, you keep going when your body asks for rest. But inside there is a place that has been waiting for a name, waiting for a reason, waiting for someone to tell you that what you have been sensing is real. Tonight is not a random message. Tonight, you are going to recognize the signs that have been following you, understand the pattern underneath them, and hear the declaration that confirms why this moment found you now. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you will know what has been speaking to you in the dark. By the time we reach the end, you will recognize the signs that have been repeating in your life, the kind that people around you would dismiss, but your spirit cannot ignore. You will understand the single pattern that has been draining your strength in places no one sees. And before this closes, I am going to speak a final word over you that will not ask for permission, because it is already moving through you. You are not here by accident. You did not drift into this moment. This message reached you by appointment, because there are seasons when heaven does not knock politely. It enters through the very ache you have been trying to explain away. If you have been feeling that strange inner pressure lately, the one that does not come from fear and does not come from fatigue alone, then you already know something has been happening. You may not have had language for it, but your life has been giving you clues, and the clues have not been subtle. You may have noticed that you wake up at the same hour again and again, even when you go to bed exhausted. It happens so often now that your body almost expects it, as if some quiet alarm inside you rises before dawn and refuses to let you remain untouched by the night. That is not random. That is a signal. You may have noticed the waves in your emotions that arrive without a clear cause. One moment you are steady, and the next there is a heaviness moving through you like weather, not because something visible. Attention, you need to prepare now. I put together an exclusive resource for those who feel set apart for something greater, but live surrounded by noise, distractions, and mental overload. This is a 30-day journey that will transform your life. A guided path to armor your mind and prepare for what's coming with daily practices of focus, boundaries, and discipline. Stop negotiating with the noise. Learn to spot distractions before they control you. And strengthen your mind. Also available in an immersive audio version. Over 10 Zuru readers have already transformed their lives through the 30-day journey. Thousands of people have already started this transformation. People like you who are tired of living in the fog. Ordinary people who decided to stop accepting mental chaos. Take advantage of this limited time offer only this month. Access your link just below in the pinned comment. Broke, but because something invisible is being rearranged. You keep asking yourself what changed, and the answer is that you changed before the room around you did. You may have noticed that old conversations no longer fit the way they used to. Words that once sounded normal now feel thin. Connections that once felt easy now feel like you are speaking through glass. It is not that you have become cold. It is that your inner world no longer agrees to stay where it used to live. You may have noticed numbers, repetitions, echoes, little patterns crossing your path in places that should have no connection to each other. A receipt, a clock, a page, a message, a glance, the same pattern returning until you cannot keep calling it coincidence with a straight face. Something is insisting on your attention. And here is what those signs actually mean. They are not punishments, and they are not warnings of failure. They are confirmations. The waking hour is an invitation. The emotional wave is calibration. The distance from what used to fit is alignment. The repetitions are a hand on your shoulder, not to frighten you, but to wake you gently into what has already begun. You do not need to be ashamed that you have noticed these things. You do not need to explain them away to people who were never given your level of sensitivity. Some of you have been calling this exhaustion, but it is deeper than exhaustion. Some of you have been calling this confusion, but it is deeper than confusion. Something in you is being tuned. Take a breath with me now. Let your shoulders soften for a moment. Do not rush past what your spirit has already recognized. If even one of those signs has landed in you, if your chest tightened at any point, if your mind quietly said yes before your mouth did, type the number 888. That is the frequency of overflow, the sign that something is moving toward completion and not collapse. Type 888, then come right back to me. Because beneath these signs, there is something even more precise. And once you see it, you will understand why the same ache has been circling your life for so long. Beneath those signs is one single pattern. You have been trying to hold together what was never meant to be held together by force. You have been reaching with sincere hands toward things that require surrender, not strain. You have been treating effort like proof, even when your spirit has been asking for permission to rest. This is the pattern. You keep returning to the door, even when the key is no longer in your grip. You keep knocking on old arrangements. You keep investing heart into spaces that are already empty of reply. And because you are faithful, you mistake the persistence of your hope for evidence that the root is still alive. That is why the same theme has appeared in different forms across your life. You pour yourself into what should respond, and then you stand there confused when it does not. You give more patience. You give more explanation. You give more of your own clarity to people, places, and promises that were never actually meeting you where you stood. You have probably called yourself stubborn in moments like this. You have probably wondered why you cannot simply let go more quickly. But what if the very thing you have called stubbornness is actually devotion misplaced by pain? What if the part of you that keeps trying is the part that was taught long ago that love must be earned by endurance? That is the quiet wound inside the pattern, not lack, not weakness, not failure, overtraining your heart to remain available where your spirit has already been dismissed. And because you are used to living that way, it can take you months, sometimes years, to recognize that the burden was never holy, just because you were carrying it faithfully. There is a cost to this. It is not always dramatic. Often it is quiet. It shows up as a life that feels heavier than it should. It shows up as a smile that is beginning to cost more than it gives. It shows up as the slow erosion of joy, because you keep spending yourself in places that only know how to take and not how to receive. And still, you keep going, because you have been strong for so long that even your soul has learned to perform strength as a reflex. But the deeper layer is the one we walk into next, because this pattern did not begin with the pattern itself. Imagine a courtyard that belonged to you long before you were ever taught its name. Imagine that it was built with open air, with space for light, with room for your voice to travel without being stopped. Then imagine that, over time, someone began to close the gates. Not all at once, slowly, quietly. Enough that the courtyard still exists, but now you have to strain to hear your own footsteps inside it. That is what happened to many of you. The space inside you did not disappear. It was enclosed. The openness was narrowed. The voice that once moved freely was taught to lower itself. The instinct that once trusted its own timing was told to wait, to shrink, to survive by becoming less visible. So you learned to live inside the narrowed courtyard, as if it were the whole of your inheritance. You adapted to the dimming. You learned the shapes of the walls. You made yourself useful in a space that no longer reflected your full size. And because you adapted so well, almost no one noticed how much of you had been required to stay quiet. The old formation was not created by your spirit, it was imposed upon it. A family, a season, a wound, a culture of survival, a message repeated enough times that your deepest rhythm began to bend around it. You were not born needing to prove yourself in this way. You were trained into it. That matters. That changes everything. For a long time, you may have believed your silence was wisdom. You may have believed your shrinking was humility. You may have believed your constant self-editing was maturity. But there is a difference between reverence and suppression, between gentleness and disappearance. And somewhere inside you, the difference has been trying to return to you. Now the courtyard begins to change. The air moves again. The gate that looked permanent is not as permanent as it seemed. The light does not ask permission. It reaches across the stones, touches what was hidden, and reveals that what you thought had died was only waiting under a covering. If that image just landed in you, if you can feel the courtyard in your own chest, if something inside you has begun to recognize its own original shape, type the words, "I am awake." Let that recognition settle where the gate used to be. Type it slowly, then come right back to me. Because once the courtyard opens, you stop confusing enclosure with identity. You stop calling survival your true name. You begin to understand that what you need is not another performance of strength, but a return to what was waiting before the walls were built. The solution is not to become harder. The solution is not to become louder. The solution is not to force yourself into a new shape through pressure. The solution is a return, a remembering, a loosening of the grip on what was never meant to define you forever. You do not need to manufacture what has been missing. You do not need to earn access to your own wholeness. You do not need to prove that you are worthy of clarity or peace, or a life that no longer feels like a battle against your own reflection. You receive that. You receive the return. Begin with the morning seal. Before the noise of the day gathers around you, place your hand over your chest and say quietly, "I am no longer living as if the gate is still closed." You are not performing this. You are naming it. You are teaching your body the difference between old enclosure and present freedom. Then practice the frequency audit. Once in the day, pause and ask not what is demanding you, but what is draining you without truth. Notice where your spirit tightens, where your breath shortens, where your yes arrives before your peace does. You are not doing this to become suspicious. You are doing this to become faithful to what is real. And as you do, hold your life with stewardship, not striving. Stewardship knows how to tend what has been given. Striving tries to force what has not yet ripened. Stewardship can wait without despair. Stewardship can protect a growing thing without crushing it. Stewardship can honor the courtyard without trying to rebuild it in a day. You may find that the first thing to return is not confidence but honesty. You may find that the first thing to return is not certainty, but breath. That is enough. Breath is not small. Breath is evidence that life has not withdrawn. Breath is the beginning of trust coming back to the places that had gone quiet. And there it is. The quiet witness inside you saying yes without needing a stage. If this message has confirmed what your spirit already knew, let your like be your amen without words. Not as a metric, as an agreement that what was named here was named correctly. Sit with that for a moment. Do not rush past the tenderness of being recognized. There is someone in your life who came to mind as I was speaking. Someone quietly tired, someone holding a posture nobody sees, someone whose strength has made them invisible for too long, someone who keeps showing up with a brave face while their heart is asking for relief, someone who needs this exact message tonight. Send this to them, not as a recommendation, as a delivery, the same way it was delivered to you by appointment for the one who has been standing at the edge of their own return. Before this closes, type the words "I am chosen," not as a wish, not as a hope, as a confirmation, the agreement that has been forming between what you heard and what you have carried is becoming part of your own record now. Type it slowly. Let your fingers do what your spirit is already doing. Breathe, because you are confirmed, you are remembered. You are being gathered back into yourself. You are not abandoned at the threshold. You are not forgotten in the courtyard. You are not losing your life when you release what was built on survival. You are being steadied. You are being restored. You are being led back to the place where your voice does not have to strain to exist. You are being invited into a peace that does not depend on the approval of what once closed around you. Right now, all across the world, others are receiving this same recognition tonight. You are part of a gathering that does not make noise, but it is real. You are one of the ones who heard the knock inside the silence and recognized it as your own name being spoken. It is sealed. You are not arriving at the end of a story. You are arriving at the edge of your own remembering, where the last resistance begins to loosen, and the truth that has followed you quietly becomes impossible to deny. What has been spoken over you is not floating in the air anymore. It is settling into the part of you that has waited the longest to be recognized, and that is why the moment feels so still. You may feel that stillness as tenderness. You may feel it as relief. You may even feel it as grief, because every real return carries the ache of realizing how long you lived without what was always meant for you. But do not confuse the ache with loss. Sometimes grief is only the sound of a gate opening that had been closed for too long. You are allowed to let this land slowly. You do not need to force a reaction. You do not need to perform certainty for anyone. The deepest confirmations usually arrive in a quieter tone than fear, and that is why they are easy to miss at first. But you heard it. Something in you heard it, and the hearing itself has already changed the ground under your feet. There is a sacred mercy in being recognized at the right time. Not before, not after. At the exact point when your spirit can finally receive what your strength could not manufacture. That is what this hour is for you. It is not the hour of striving. It is the hour of recognition. It is the hour when the inward door that was sealed by survival begins to open by grace. And when that door opens, you do not become someone else. You become less divided. You become less occupied by the noise of proving. You become less available to what drains you and more available to what is true. You start to notice that peace is not a reward at the end of endurance. Peace is the environment in which your original life can breathe again. So let this be clear in you now. What has been draining you does not get to name you. What has delayed you does not get to define you. What has closed around you does not get the final word over your voice, your tenderness, your discernment, or your future. The old narrowing may have trained your posture, but it did not author your identity. You are not too late. You are not behind. You are not disqualified, because it took time to see what was happening. Some lessons arrive only after the soul has gathered enough strength to hear them without collapsing. That is not failure. That is timing. That is wisdom. That is why this message found you when it did, and not when your heart would have been too tired to hold it. There is a difference between being delayed and being denied. Delay asks you to wait while something becomes ready. Denial erases. Delay still keeps the door in view. Denial tries to convince you there was never a door at all. But you know better now. You know there was a door. You know there was a courtyard. You know there was an opening that your life kept circling until you were finally ready to see it. And if your mind is returning now to all the little signs again, let it. Let the waking hour return to your memory. Let the emotional wave return. Let the hollow conversations and the repeated numbers and the strange inner pressure return. They are no longer random fragments. They are pieces of a larger mercy. They were not there to scare you. They were there to gather you. That gathering is already happening in quiet places. It does not need applause. It does not need explanation. It only needs your consent to stop calling survival your destiny. You can be grateful for the armor without becoming the armor. You can honor what protected you without remaining trapped inside the shape it gave you. Some of you have spent years being the strong one, the reliable one, the one who holds the room together, the one who notices everything, the one who keeps showing up even when no one notices the cost. Hear this carefully. Your value was never measured by how much of yourself you could silence to make other people comfortable. Your worth was never conditional on your invisibility. What was dimmed in you can be bright again. What was narrowed in you can widen again. What was made cautious can become discerning without becoming afraid. What was made quiet can become steady without becoming small. The return is not noisy, but it is real. It comes like light at the edge of a doorframe before the whole room is visible. And because this is a real return, it will show itself in practical ways. You will notice what no longer feeds you. You will notice where your peace leaves before your body does. You will notice the moments when old obligations try to dress themselves up as duty. You will notice that your no becomes cleaner, your yes becomes truer, and your heart stops negotiating with what has already revealed itself. That is not coldness. That is clarity. That is not hardness. That is consecration. There is a holiness in refusing to keep offering your deepest life to what cannot hold it. There is a holiness in letting the exhausted heart rest long enough to remember its own shape. There is a holiness in no longer mistaking constant availability for devotion. You are allowed to belong to yourself again. That sentence may feel unfamiliar, but it is not foreign. It is ancient. It is the sound of your own name coming back without distortion. It is the sound of the courtyard opening to the sky. It is the sound of your breath no longer asking permission to enter the room. Let the next part of your life be marked by gentleness that is not weakness, by stillness that is not emptiness, by boundaries that are not punishment, by joy that does not have to justify itself. Let your days become places where your soul is no longer managed by fear. Let your attention return to what nourishes rather than what merely demands. You do not need to become more impressive. You need to become more undivided. You do not need to build a new self from scratch. You need to let the false requirements fall away from the self that was there before the pressure taught it to hide. That self has not vanished. It has waited. It has remained. It has been closer to you than the exhaustion ever was. And now, even now, the quiet inside you is not empty. It is full of the things that only silence can reveal: truth, readiness, tenderness, and the beginning of relief. Stay with that quiet. Do not rush to fill it. Do not reach for noise just because the stillness feels unfamiliar. Sometimes the soul speaks first as space. You are being given space now. Space to see. Space to soften, space to stop asking old doors for new life, space to receive what was already moving toward you while you were busy surviving, space to become faithful to the part of you that never agreed with the narrowing in the first place. And as you breathe here, remember this: a return is not a collapse into passivity. It is a coming home with awareness. It is a coming home with wisdom. It is a coming home with the old burden removed from your hands. It is a coming home that changes the way you walk, the way you listen, the way you answer, the way you recognize what is truly yours. I speak this over you with quiet certainty. You are being restored in the places where you were taught to disappear. You are being strengthened in the places where you were taught to doubt your own perception. You are being gathered back from the edges of exhaustion into the center of your life, where your spirit can stand without flinching. You do not need to fear what is opening. You only need to honor it. What is opening is not a trap. It is relief. What is opening is not a test you can fail. It is a threshold you have already begun to cross simply by hearing what you heard and recognizing what you recognized. The door is no longer only ahead of you, it is already opening within you. And when the old voice returns and tries to tell you that none of this is meant for you, answer it with the calm that comes after tears. Answer it with the calm that comes after recognition. Answer it with the calm that knows the difference between a false story and a living witness. You have seen too much now to pretend you have not been called. So let your life become a place where the signs are not feared but understood, where the pattern is not obeyed but exposed, where the old formation is not worshipped but released, where the return is not delayed by shame. Let your inner courtyard breathe again. Let the light remain. Let the gate stay open. And because this message has brought you here, I will say it plainly one more time. You are not abandoned, you are not forgotten, and you are not too late to step into what is true. The recognition has already begun. The return has already started. The quiet has already changed its meaning. You are being led, even now, into a steadier way of living. You are being led out of the reflex to overgive. You are being led away from the old pressure to perform strength. You are being led back to a center that does not collapse when the world gets loud. You are being led home. Keep this close when the day begins to ask things of you. Keep this close when old habits try to return and call themselves familiar. Keep this close when your heart remembers how long it has been carrying what was never meant to be permanent. The truth does not need to shout to remain true. It only needs to be remembered. What has been spoken is now part of that remembering. What has been revealed cannot be unseen. What has been opened does not need your permission to continue opening. You are already standing inside the beginning of something quieter, truer, and more whole than the life that taught you to survive by narrowing. So breathe as one who is no longer only enduring. Breathe as one who is being restored. Breathe as one who can finally tell the difference between the burden that was assigned and the life that was promised. Breathe as one who has come to the edge of the return and found that the return was waiting all along. You are confirmed. You are gathered. You are being brought back to yourself. You are not a fragment. You are not a mistake. You are not the echo of what wounded you. You are the one who remained, the one who listened, the one who recognized the call when it came softly enough to be missed by everyone else. And now the call has done its work. Now the threshold has spoken. Now the courtyard has opened. Now the silence has become a place of meeting instead of a place of fear. Let that be enough for this moment, because it is enough. It has always been enough. Right now, all across the world, there are hearts receiving this same recognition in their own way, in their own language, in their own hidden hour. They are not alone in what they felt. You are not alone in what you felt. The same mercy that found you is gathering others into their own return, and the quiet of that gathering is stronger than any noise that once tried to define you. So hold what has been given, hold it gently, hold it faithfully, hold it without apology. The door remains open, the light remains, the return remains, and the life waiting on the other side of this recognition is already moving toward you with a patience that has never once failed. It is sealed. Hope, attention. You need to prepare now. I put together an exclusive resource for those who feel set apart for something greater, but live surrounded by noise, distractions, and mental overload. This is a 30-day journey that will transform your life. A guided path to armor your mind and prepare for what's coming with daily practices of focus, boundaries, and discipline. Stop negotiating with the noise. Learn to spot distractions before they control you, and strengthen your mind. Also available in an immersive audio version. Over 10 Zuru readers have already transformed their lives through the 30-day journey. Thousands of people have already started this transformation. People like you who are tired of living in the fog. Ordinary people who decided to stop accepting mental chaos. Take advantage of this limited time offer only this month. Access your link just below in the pinned comment.